Whether you are in a 9 to 5 job or entrepreneurship, we all want to make it big. And thus, we need the right role models. So, you are at the right place because I'll get you such success journeys from wherein you can take inspiration. Don't forget to subscribe for regular dose of guidance and motivation. So, what we are waiting for? Let's see who we have today.
Hi, I'm Megha, and today I have my younger brother Parth with me, who is almost 12 years younger to me. And he started his successful business, puckering.com, which is totally bootstrapped, at the age of 18. So let's hear from him that how did he get into this, what motivated him, and what kept him going.
Hi, my name is Parth. I founded Entrepreneurship. We've done close to $5 million plus to date, and we've done over 100,000 orders. Every single unit that we've done is all personalized, it's all made to order, and there's a bunch of unique challenges and takeaways that I think can be very beneficial for your audience, as well as some things that we can tell people that if they want to be entrepreneurs or key things to know, and sharing things that may not want people to be entrepreneurs, and that's completely fine.
So, I'm not saying this because you are my brother, and your journey has been pretty amazing. But what made you get into this?
Oh, thank you so much. So this was a very interesting transition for me. I, like most of you, have probably gotten an ad about someone making money online, and I was trying to see if there's any credibility to it. And of course, when you first see all these YouTube gurus and all that, there's very little credibility on it. But it kind of sparked the interest of getting into web design for me. And so I spent a few years getting into web design while learning more about entrepreneurship. And I tried maybe like 5, 6, 7 businesses while I was doing it. Obviously, a lot of them failed. But then eventually I stumbled across the idea of puppering, and I decided to pursue it with my business partner Alex. And we ended up creating a massive company out of it. It's something that we both had no idea would get this big. And it's just really been a pleasure to be doing this. I think if not for our team, then we wouldn't have even gotten this far. But really, it's all about just putting yourself out there and trying an idea. And for me, I had like 7, 8 ideas, and all of them I thought could be the next thing. But if you told me that out of my 10 great ideas, puppering would have been the one to take off, I could have never predicted it. But the real thing is just trying and starting an idea, because if you don't ever start, you'll never actually get it.
Sure. So you mean that you had a lot of great ideas, but then you started executing a few of them.
Well, they were not great in hindsight, but yeah, when I came up with the ideas, they were great.
Right. So basically, it depends more on the execution rather than the idea itself.
Well, it depends on just going out there and doing it. If you try to be perfect in your execution, you're never going to get anywhere. The fact is if you, like when I started web design, that's really how I got into all this. I started charging people money for designing Shopify websites, and when I started, I had no coding knowledge. I had very little graphic knowledge. All I knew was these colors match together and this makes a good design, right? And slowly over time, I built my knowledge of what actually worked. Now, I do apologize for my first ever website clients because it was terrible looking at, as will your first business and your first email, your first newsletter. And anything you do, your first will always be the worst, but
you have to start somewhere.
Yeah, you have to start somewhere. I could go on and on about this, but the very core principle, if you want to succeed in anything, is just to do it, regardless of if it's great or not, but just doing it every single day. You'll eventually get better at it, and you'll get to where you want to be.
That's great, that's perfect. So being consistent and just going out there and starting at whatever level you are, don't worry about the perfection. Right? And
Yeah.
you also spoke about the team. So how did you and Alex build the team from scratch? How did you hire? And
So,
who did you Yeah.
I think that the fun part is always hiring. Circling back to that, I think building the team was relatively easy, if I'm going to be honest. The team part of it is all about really just finding the right people and getting them in the right position. For me, I like to do a very unique interview style, right? Where the goal of every interview is to see if someone's a hard worker, to see if someone will be a good fit for the culture, right? And if I asked you, are you a hard worker? You'd say,
I'm a hard worker. Maybe I just like that.
yeah, everyone will
is
say they're a
going
hard
to say
worker.
that.
No one will ever say, oh, I am a lazy worker, right? So, and that's the thing. An interviewer, if you really want to get into the head of an interviewer, they need to ask questions that can give you examples of how you act. Like, for example, one of the questions I ask is, who's your favorite boss and why? And the purpose of that question is really just to understand, what they value in a company, what they value in a boss, because at the end of the day, you are the boss of the people, right? And vice versa, ask what their least favorite bosses. And then if someone answers, oh, I hated this boss because he kept giving me more work, well, that person's not a hard worker. Now you've answered that question that you initially wanted to get the answer to. And so if you start thinking of the interview and like, okay, well, they're trying to determine if I can get the job done, if I'm a hard worker, if I'm able to work until it's done, right? And if you start thinking in that framework, then that's how you get the interview. But if you as the interviewee start thinking in that framework, then it really works well and you can perform better in your interviews.
Right. So basically, you're looking for soft skills and behavioral rounds to actually assess your workers, right? More
Yeah.
than the technical. So you're assessing on the technical and then you are assessing on the behavioral.
Yeah. So the prereq to any interview is obviously technical competence.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure they're able to do the job. But when it comes time to the interview, the biggest thing you want to see is how does their mind work? Because anyone can be good on paper, but the real difference that you want between an amazing employee, like an A team player, and someone who just sit there and get the job done and eat your resources is these soft skills that you were saying.
Right. So basically, you are looking for the problem-solving skills as well as someone who is a team player, and then they have certain soft skills so that they can work together with others.
Yeah.
And then, if I might ask you, how big is the team now?
So we've just brought the team up to 15. It's been a wild journey, but the one thing I'm going to say is that for us, we've been running the business for 4 years. We've just now gotten the team at like year 3.5, right? So that's the thing. It's until then it was all just about me and Alex putting in the effort, and we had a few auxiliary resources. It's only now that we have a team and we can fully step away from the business and focus on the ventures.
Right. So what was the motivation for you and Alex to put in so much hard work for so much time? Like you were saying, after 2 to 3 years you started building on the team. So what was the motivation behind you and Alex putting so much effort and still keep going on even when there are low days? And I'm not sure though, but there would have been some low days as well, right?
Yeah, of course.
So,
with any business is what it is.
Yeah.
I think here's my answer. You're probably not gonna like it. We were both young and broke, and for us, it was really something that we wanted to create. Like the idea is amazing, right? I think the idea and execution, like the ability to create customized jewelry, especially jewelry for under $40, right? That's something that not a lot of people can do, especially customized jewelry, sterling silver, high quality metals. Right, so it was really all about just us creating a product that wasn't in the market and creating something unique. And what motivated really was just Alex and I. We didn't like the conventional idea of getting a job and all of that. We wanted to create something that people would actually cherish and enjoy. So that's kind of how we got into it. And in terms of like how we got here after like 3-4 years, painful because, like I said, we didn't know much when we started out. And so I think like the biggest thing for us in our development was we got someone who coached us. We got a mentor who could guide us, because the best way to learn is by someone who's already done this. Right? So he basically helped us skip years of mistakes. I think the other thing we learned is consistency. Right? You may not be good at something, but if you're consistent at it, like for example, one of the things with buffering is we have to do 15 ads every single week. And if we ever miss even 1 week, right, 15 unique advertisements, by the way. But if we ever miss 1 single week of advertisements, the performance will drop. Maybe not the following week, but it will drop in the future, right? And that's one of the key things we realize is it's all about being consistent, regardless of what you do, right?
That's actually incredible what you have said. It's not just one domain, every single domain you have to be consistent. Rather, irrespective of how or what skill you are carrying, if you be consistent, then you will improve on it. So
There was
on that.
There was an analogy that I want to share. There was an art teacher who split our class in twice, right, in 2 halves. The first half of the class had to paint 1 perfect picture by the end of the semester. The other half of the class had to paint 1,000 pictures by the end of the semester, right? And you would think that the class who spent hours and days, if not months, on that 1 picture have a better picture. But no, the people who were working on 1,000 pictures actually had a better product at the end of the day, because they were able to make mistakes and fail at the specific thing, and only then at the end did they get better. Whereas the person who perfects that 1 piece of paper, right, they'll think it's perfect. At the end of the day, there's so much things that they didn't know about because they never took the initiative to do 100%.
Right. They still have blind spots because they could not look at those
Yeah.
blind spots themselves.
You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, and it's very, very important to have failures. Not only being an entrepreneur, but also if you are in a job. So you need to have those failures, learn from them, and then improve.
Yeah, it's also very important to have someone who can tell you what you don't know.
Yeah,
Because you won't
Right.
ever know what you don't know until you have someone to tell you.
right. So being consistent and then just stepping out, going out right there and doing it, and then being consistent and then having a mentor
Mhm.
and learning from your failures and not giving up because of the failures. Okay, so how will you, when we are talking about failures, so how will you define the success?
See that depends on the objective, right? When you set a goal, you have like a desired outcome. I think if anything, that's a success. But you also have to make sure it's the right desired outcome. Because I could say that the biggest analogy you can use is Samsung and Apple, right? When Apple released the iPhone, right, they were trying to innovate and develop the space. But when Samsung saw Apple's success, their goal was to beat the revenue numbers of Apple. So after a few years, they made more revenue than Apple. But Apple then developed a new technology, and then that took over the game again. So it's really about you can obviously get success regardless of what you do. The trick is finding the right metric of success, finding what the right metric is. Because if you can say that, hitting on $10 million in revenue is the right metric, and that would be good, but the better metric is, okay, let's aim for 15% profit, or let's expand our net margin by 5%, and that should be the goal, right? So,
Right.
Yeah.
And I like your analogy because I have worked at both Samsung and Apple. So thank you for that. But yeah, jokes apart, the analogy was pretty perfect. So it's about your goals and about your metrics, like what success is to you, and it's different from person to person. So it's based on the individuals, right? Based on each individual, that what is success to them or
Yeah.
for them. Right? How did you convince your parents? Because we are Indians and we have certain kind of
Oh man.
mindset, cultural mindset that we should go into jobs, or jobs are safe or risk free. However, you are based in US and born and brought up in US in your case. But still, convincing Indian parents takes some effort. So how did you do that?
Yeah, so I was a first year immigrant into the US. My parents, the saying, they came from nothing, and they worked hard, and then, were like, hey, here's a good education they provided for me, got me into a good college and all that. And like you said, it's a hard thing for an Indian parent to want to do all of that. Like they want you to have stability, but then they want you to have a good job and very stable income. The trick is see, it's funny because I'm thinking of this one story, right? We went viral on TikTok once, and we made $25,000 in one day. Now, $25,000, and it was viral, so it was like 70% margins, right? Maybe only big costs, and no advertising costs. And I was so excited, I brought it up to them. I was like, hey, we just made this much money. And they're like, okay, cool, go back to college. they didn't care. It's probably different parent to parent. I mean, they really understood it was a real business, but they still wanted me to have a very stable future because they wanted to ensure success.
Mhm.
The biggest thing really is just understanding that they have the best intentions for you. However, that being said, you can't always listen to them because you can be right about something, right? You have to acknowledge that they have the best intentions for you, and you have to make sure that you show them respect by being honest with it on what you're doing. But you also shouldn't let that stop you from what you're doing. I told them every step of the way. I took over the basement. The first year of the company, we had to fill all the units from the basement, so I bought an engraving machine. And they were great. They helped me with the units. They helped me package the orders as well. I mean, they're still yelling at me to finish college and all that stuff, but they were helping me do the packaging. And it was only until year 2 is when I got a facility and we moved it out. Still, they're yelling at me. So now they aren't yelling at me. Now they've accepted it. They're like, whatever. But it'll be different from parent to parent. I don't think there's like a specific way you can convince them.
Right. But they have good intentions for you, but you have to convince them, you have to tell them everything, you have to explain them everything so that they know that, okay, you are not doing something haphazard, you are actually having a plan and you're going through it. On the contrary, my parents were into business and they wanted me to go for a a business or entrepreneurship, but I took a stable ground and I went to jobs. But yeah, I relate to what Parth said. So parents want good things for us, and we have to respect that, and we have to explain them, and we have to convince them, and we have to show them the other side of the coin, because they might not have seen that. Right?
Yeah.
So that's a very good point which has come out, and I think irrespective of having Indian parents or American or any kind of any ethnic background parents, all wants good things for us, and we have to respect that. It was indeed great having this conversation. So I would like you to summarize the key takeaways for my audience, and also tell them how to start in crisp 2 to 3 steps, how to start their own venture or business or a startup.
Yeah. Well, first off, thank you for having me. I think the 3 biggest takeaways is, number 1, you have to just focus and be consistent. The hardest part of any business, the reason that most businesses fail, is because they're unable to stay consistent. Oftentimes I may be doing something as simple as doing the books on a daily basis, or maybe something a bit more complex, but it's really all about just showing up day in and day out, regardless of how you're feeling. Step 2 is building a network of people that you can rely on, people that are also doing the same thing as you, where you can learn from their mistakes as well. Collectively, if you're the only one failing and making mistakes, you're only going to learn off of your failures. But if you have a group of 7 or 10 people who are also failing, you can share your mistakes with those people, and vice versa, they can share with you, and you'll be able to learn a lot faster. You'll be able to learn 10 times as fast, or however many people you have. So it's really important to build a network and a group of people. And the last thing is just remember, failure is a part of the process. So you're not going to make it on your first try. No one ever does, right? You're going to have a lot of failures, and you have to remember that failure is just a part of the journey. The real thing is getting up, getting to the successful point.
So basically, it's all about being consistent and not letting yourself down, or having self-doubt when you have failures. Keep moving on, as well as building a network or a support group or a support community, so that you have allies as well as you have mentors to learn from. So that's all for today, and I'll be back with someone else from the industry, or someone from whom we can learn, like we have learned so much from Parth, whether they are younger or older. And I'll see you next time. Till then, you can like, subscribe, share, and keep in touch.